Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me for the session, Build Smarter Agents Using Prompt Builder and Flows. So today it's going to be just me who's going to be presenting this session. I don't have Lee Palmer with me because of personal reasons. And also Lee added a note saying like, once I say that out loud to the audience, you might lose half the audience there, sir. But I'm hoping that everybody stays along for the whole session, and thank you. So, as always, a forward-looking statement. Most of the things which I'm going to talk about in this session are already GA, but there are aspects why I will touch upon which are not already GA though. So obviously, before making any business decision or choices, do ensure like it's GA and it's okay to be talking to your clients. So just an introduction about myself. I'm Ashwin Srinivasan. I've been in Salesforce ecosystem around 15 years now. Started on the days of S controls and then Visualforce, LWC. Now trying myself to get along with the new Agentforce world and all the agentic workflows and so on. Though. So I've added the Agentforce specialist certification as well as the Agent Blazer champion logo over there, just so that we to back up what was spoken in the keynote, we can all start looking into this Agent Blazer badges, which has been opened up for everybody now, though. So this champion badge is been there for some time now. I think a couple of weeks at least. Then they've announced this innovator and then the legend badge as it was discussed in the keynote. Right, let's go into the agenda. So we'll do some introduction about, obviously everybody is hearing about Agentforce, so I'll keep that short part of Agentforce, what is an Agentforce thing, a bit short. And then we'll go and touch base upon Agent Builder. Basically, we'll talk about what a topic is, what actions are, and we'll also touch base on how important an instruction when you create an action, basically. So here, everything is going to be about building an action using Prompt Builder and Flow. So when you build any type of action, what an instruction means to an action, so that's something we'll touch base in the second part. Then we'll see an overview of what a prompt builder is. I've picked a particular template of prompt builder for this talk and for the demo. So, but I'll touch base on what a prompt builder is as well, so that because this is again quite a key tool which you're using to build the actions. Then the next part, obviously the most fun part, will be the demo, and we'll walk through a scenario and a use case where we are using a prompt action and a standard action as well as a flow action in play. Once I demo this, I'll also will walk through on how do you start. I mean, how does a flow action could be built on, and how could you do a prompt action as well. So I'll be walking through, hopefully in an org. I could show you that as well. The demo will be pre-recorded. And the last part is, I always like to end any of my talks or sessions with some best practices and or tips or tricks. In this instance, obviously, Agentforce is pretty new and very new. So with my experience of what I've been doing in the last couple of months with few hackathons and with working with few clients and also my own sort of investigations and proof of concepts I've been building across. So I'll put out what I thought could be best practices. Obviously, this is something which will evolve with the Agentforce evolving in itself, though. Right. So this is okay. Agentforce in itself. So I know we've been hearing this since probably 8 a.m. in the morning, though. So I've just put it out for what is required for this topic in itself, though. So one, AI for everyone. The simple statement, Agentforce, any natural language which we describe, we get an output for. We get an outcome based on whatever the natural language input which you're going to give it to. The second part is the flexible configuration. This is our key part in our demo or in our talk per se. So where we'll talk about these actions and topics and how do you build them using various tools which Salesforce has provided us. The third part is enterprise ready. Why I say that is, there's a lot of pre-built actions or out-of-the-box actions which are available for us to use. So it'll be good to make a judgment on if you have to build a new action or if there is anything where we could use a pre-built action for as well, though. Hopefully, our keynote input where the agent builder via the prompt, it could decide what is good to build a new action, or is there any action which is already present for us to be making use of, though. Right. So the next part is, as I mentioned, this is going to be a key part. So topics and actions. So what I call a topic is a collection of tasks, a job to do, basically. So an agent builder, or an agent which you have built via an agent builder, could have multiple topics. So we're going to look on building a single topic and multiple actions within the topic, though. Again, classify the topics quite carefully as well, though. So I don't know if anybody saw the crazy flow which was built. So you don't want to be having one particular topic or one single topic underneath an agent and have 50 odd actions with that topic. So try and have a good classification, saying like if you could split multiple topics, say if you have 10 topics and 5 actions in each topic per se, then it's easy for the reasoning engine as well to know like which topic to pick before going into the topic and say which action to pick from there. So this is just a screenshot of how when you create an action, when you create a topic, how it looks like, and when you create an action, how it looks like. And in both, if you see, the instruction part is what is a required field in terms of Salesforce, but also is a very important field for us on how do we define it, why it is important. So I've tried to put it out as best as I could. So here, the top part is case management, right? That I've classified the case management as a topic. So you could have multiple topics. You could have an order management, or you could have a customer support, or you could have multiple topics for a particular agent, though. So here, I've classified this case management as a single topic. Again, this is just purely example. And then this topic could have, say, multiple actions in place. I'm giving three actions as an example. So categorizing a customer case, and then retrieving the knowledge, and also resolve or escalate the case based upon the output. So if you see here clearly, the key part there, the bottom part there is the instruction. So define the instruction in a very clear, concise manner, so that so this is what will be passed on to the LLM. So basically, when the instruction is very clear, it is very easy for the LLM as well as the reasoning engine to pick what action to be chosen within the topic for the prompt you've given, though. So I mean, we'll talk through more around the examples which you're going to have in the prompt and stuff, though. But so if you see here, all I have is clearly detailed out is the instructions. So I come from a development background, and I know there are quite a lot of admins and probably some developers as well over here. The key thing we should not do is let's try and create a topic in action, test, A, B, C, D. So that's probably the rule one to avoid. It might look okay if you have one action in one topic, but that's not how we're going to build an agent, right? So we want a various number of topics within an agent and various number of actions within that topic to be functioning okay. So for that, these instructions are quite key for large language model, which is the LLM, to receive them, though. So clear and concise ones on them. Right. The next step, why I chose this topic. So I was thinking quite a lot on what could be the next, because I do a lot of flow related talks whenever there's something I have to present. It'll be always around the flow related stuff. So why I chose this topic, because look, leaving the code part out, I think the key element of Agentforce is how do you get the data. So basically grounding of the data, though. So the data could come from, I don't know how many of you were there in the previous few sessions. The data could come from Data Cloud or various other external sources as well. But from our sort of topic perspective, how do you get a data from a prompt builder, or how do you get a data from flow? So this will make it really more powerful, though. So if you have a deterministic data as well as dynamic data, what you could get, if you combine those two type of data, it's going to be very, very powerful for an Agentforce to function with the Salesforce org data, also beyond that as well. So hence prompt builder, and little bit more details on that, why prompt builder, though. So once you give a prompt to prompt builder, which is again from an agent, from an Agentforce UI, you can give a prompt, or obviously there's going to be in future a prompt could be automatically fed into different tools and stuff, though. So when you give a prompt, the next key step which will happen is securing the data. So always ensure that the agent permissions, so you're going to associate a user which is going to be the agent user sort of thing. So that permission is quite clearly defined. An agent permission is going to be quite important because if there is no permission to access a particular set of data, this data wouldn't be able to access. Again, this forms as part of this trust layer, which Salesforce has been talking about quite a lot as well, and it's going to be very useful from a perspective of when we start feeding in client data or customer data into these tools, you need a layer of support or layer of security to take it forward. And the next step after that would be dynamic grounding, basically getting the data from the Salesforce org, as easy as it is. And then post-dynamic grounding is the data masking. Again, we saw an example of data masking, so that's again really important, where what happens is from a prompt builder, it ensures that whatever data which needs to be masked, so like an email address or a customer sensitive PII data and all this sort of customer sensitive data will be masked and sent across to the reasoning engine before we get the output back there. So this is really important when we talk and explain to any end users or any clients on how their data is going to be used basically, or basically not used to perform these actions, because this will bring up a good amount of trust for people to start using AI and or Gen AI or Agentforce in this aspect there. Because a lot of people I'm talking to, I'm sure all of you are talking to, is questioning on the same sort of details. So what is going to happen to my customer data? What is going to happen to my data which is in the org? And obviously it's easy to build in a developer org. What will happen if it goes to production and so on? And the last part is the prompt defense. Basically, I don't know how many of you have heard about SQL injections and stuff though. So an attack which you could get in the days where around like injecting any sort of malicious code or malicious things where it could harm the system, or it could harm in different ways. I don't want to go into that topic per se, but here the prompt defense is to avoid any sort of malicious injection to the prompt outcome as well though. So that ensures that whatever the prompt outcome is going to come through is safe, and there are guardrails to protect them as well. So this is a Salesforce representation of what we just spoke about. The part which I spoke about was the initial part to feed into the model. So if you see there, once you get into the prompt and then to feed into the model, I know there are a couple of steps which is missed in this diagram there, but these are the steps which we spoke in the previous say are what will happen to feed into the model. Obviously, once you mask something, once you do a certain level of, say, call it encryption per se, that when you do a masking, when the model gets back the data, you need to do demasking. You need to bring it back to the state where it is presentable to a customer, to an end user, or to a developer in an instance, though. So the bottom part is where once you have it in the model, the feedback, it's demasking, doing the toxicity detection and everything, and before it presented back to the end user. Right. So here is our scenario. So so what we're going to do is I've tried to remove all the sort of client aspect and stuff. So what we're going to bring as an example is a football club. And hopefully, I think in the demo you'll understand which club I support, and probably I've tried to mask some of the names with changing the first names as well, though. So there'll be a football club where when a new player is joining the football club, how do you send newsletters though? So these sort of things are quite easily could be used via an Agentforce with multiple actions and so on. So there could be multiple other use cases where we could use Agentforce as well. We'll talk about such use cases once we have the demo in play, but here we're going to see a football club in action. Right, let's get into the demo. I always like to have some dance from my country of origin where I come from to have before I get into a demo, and I always get fascinated with this dance, and my 2-year-old kid enjoys this so much. He can't make a single step of it though, but he'll try to do as much as he could, and he enjoys this every time he sees this though. Right, I hope you're all excited to see the demo as well. So, right, so this is going to be recording. So what you're going to see here is in the contact record, Glenn Rashford, yeah? So if you know the player, good. So I'm giving a prompt saying that for this current record page which I am in, so that's a new player I've signed in, look up to the parent account and also create a newsletter for the fans, but also get other players who play in the same position added into the newsletter as well, though. So this just ensures that I'm trying to access multiple level of details here, which I'll talk through in the next forthcoming slides as well, though. What are the details I'm using, though? So if you see here, this is the debrief which gets generated over there. So, and also, if you see, there are a couple of other strikers who have been included, and this is injected from a flow. So these couple of other strikers are injected from a flow, and let me try to pause it there for a bit. Right, okay. So these couple of strikers are injected from a flow. There is a prompt which contains the flow in it, and the prompt also has a lot of merge fields, which an Agentforce is querying and passing it on to the prompt builder, though. So when I continue over here, at the end, I've also created a flow action. So what that flow action is doing is, instead of sending an email for the demo purposes, I'm creating an activity. And with that activity, I'm showing that, yes, you could actually take these details out of the prompt builder and put it across somewhere. It could be sending an email, or it could be creating an activity per se, though. So, right. So what I'm showing now is, via an Agentforce, slightly a different prompt. And I've deliberately done the prompt in a way where a Rush developer or a Rush admin could be doing that, basically, so that it's not a clear prompt where the engine, the model, and then the reasoning could do the job to bring the right output. So I've just typed out whatever I could, and then that'll give me the output, though. So here, what it's showing is, if I go slightly behind, and right. So over here, if you see enrich event logs with conversation data, that's really cool tool for you to check if you're building something, just so that when you're testing it, you'll get the feedback, you'll know what is happening, and you'll get an input back on or responses of how the prompt is acting, and if there are multiple topics, especially how prompt is picking up a topic, and from that topic, how a reasoning is done to pick up those actions as well, though. So it's really good to use the event log feature over there. So if I go to the prompt builder back again, so over here, if you see, there is a chunk of events which has been logged. If you see, the first event is around, yes, the message which is sent from the Agentforce. And then once we read the Agentforce message, I'll hopefully, yeah. The second is about a session has started. Basically, a human is conversing with the agent now. So once I gave my prompt, so that's also logged over here. And once the prompt is logged over here, so if you see once the prompt is logged over here, it ensures that it goes to topic classification after that. And once the topic is classified on which topic to pick, then it will work to see what actions to be picked, though. So Atlas Reason Engineering, it will ensure that if you have multiple topics, based upon the prompt, what topics you will require, and those topics will be picked across. Right. So that's the topic classification, and then, yes, the intended output where the Copilot is going to create the newsletter, and the action is being completed. Right. So the next part to it is, from the agent builder, if I give that prompt, what's going to happen? So here we're going to see how the reasoning, and we'll go in detail about the actions we're using. As I mentioned, I've used 3 actions. So I've given a similar prompt, but I've also mentioned what contact and what account to be picked, so that the agent builder does know what to be picked. If it doesn't know, it'll give you a prompt back to say, yes, I don't know what account or what contact you need. Could you give me the account or contact details? And then you can provide a Salesforce record ID, so that this could be tested via the prompt builder as well, though. So once I've done that, I'm taking the mouse off from there. So it does give you some loading text, just so that you know like which part of the process it's working on. Obviously, a slightly different newsletter has been generated, though. The key part here is, if you see, the topic has been selected, and then I use a standard action called query records. But in my instance, I need to query a couple of records, though. So I need to query a contact. I also need to query an account. So an Agentforce is intelligent enough to ensure that, yes, there is only one action, but I need to get multiple records in play. So that uses that action multiple times. If you see here, the query record action is being used twice, one to get the account detail and other to get the contact detail. So that's taken care by Agentforce itself, and we don't need to do anything at all from our end. And all we have, if you see here, is the 3 actions. One standard action, which is in beta safe harbor, and then other 2 custom actions, which is one with the prompt builder and one with the flow. So yes, so yeah, these are the 2 standard actions. And if I move slightly forward, you could see the custom actions as well, though. So yeah, so these are the custom actions. The newsletter one is the prompt action. So it gives a prompt output. And what I do is, using that prompt output, I'm feeding it back to a flow. So Agentforce takes care of these things as long as you ensure that the flow has an input variable to take in. We'll see that in the flow example, though. So as long as this flow is able to take a variable in, Agentforce sorts everything out. You don't need to say, variable A equals, okay, so, right, contact ID or newsletter input equals to so and so. All this sort of definition, all this sort of input-output mapping, they don't need to be done, though. As long as you have a flow, as long as you have a prompt builder, and you set the right actions in Agentforce, Agentforce will take care of what actions to be passed across, though. Right. If I move to the next slide, as I mentioned, if you modelize this demo is going to have multiple components, though. So the components here we use are, right. OK, my clicker is not working. Right. OK, good. It's back. Thank you. Right, so the components which we are using is obviously, we spoke about it, a prompt builder, a flow action, and an agent builder, though. But the key thing here is we are also using a prompt builder which contains a flow inside it as well. So there's a couple of flows which we are using here, which we'll see about when we go into the org. So I think rather than showing these videos, I'll probably go into the org itself over here now. So, right. So if you go to the setup and a prompt builder, so this is a prompt builder template I've created across. So if you see here, I've given instructions. So if you see, there are triple quotes, which I mentioned. So the triple quotes, sometimes the prompt builder do ensure like what is a prompt and also what is a content to be included in the debrief, so on, though. But if you put anything within the triple quote, it is clearly stating that it's an instruction to the prompt in itself, though. So if you're having any sort of instructions, do have it in your triple quote. So these are all merge variables. So if you go here to the resources, you'll be able to pick. So here I've named account as a club, a contact as a player. And also, if you see here, it also gives options with flows, Apex, and also some setup organization data or the current user data as well, if you want to be using them. So it's quite powerful, where I've used the flex template where I can use multiple objects in play, bring multiple objects together, plus also could have a flow over here. So I've done merges here. So basically, if I go into a player, basically it's as what you see in a flow or what you see in any other builder and sales flows. If you go into an object, you'll be able to pick the fields across, though. And also, you can pick a related list across if you'd like to do a related list. So that we need to ensure that it's part of the page layout. If the related list is not part of the page layout, that will let us, I mean, it will give you the debrief, it will give you the newsletter, though, but it won't sort of give you that part of related list. So it won't throw any errors as we do in normal flow or normal Apex building and stuff. Agentforce will give you an output, but it won't include the part where the related list is there. So that's same for all the merge fields you're going to have, though. So when you have a merge field, so ensure that there is a permission to get those merge values back, though. In case of a related list, ensure that that's part of the page layout, and whatever the fields which is there in part of the page layout, they'll be displayed across. And also, if you see here, I've added the flow newsletter over here. So, and I've also put down a prompt. Say if you've seen, like you would have seen players in a bulleted list saying like total goals, total assists, and so on. Basically, I've given a prompt saying I want other players in the list, their assists, their goals as bullet points. So anything which you're giving as an instruction in the prompt template, just ensure that they are in the triple quote so it's clear to the prompt template. The next part, which we have the probably the simplest part is, right, I'm going to struggle to close this in this, right, great. So here, it's a very simple flow if you see, and this is used as an action as well. All I'm doing is creating an activity based upon the content which I get out of the prompt template, and also based upon the content which I get out of the Agentforce. So all I need to do, or all we need to do when you're building a flow action is, what are the input to the flow and what is going to be the output from the flow back to the Agentforce. So in this case, an input to the flow is an account ID, because I'm associating the account ID to the activity I'm creating. The next part is the activity ID. After I create the activity, I need to feed back to the Agentforce which activity I've created. And the last part is the newsletters output, basically the prompt templates output which you're going to get. Agentforce will take that output and map it across to this flow though. So all I've done is created these 3 outputs, and they're over here. So when I go into an action, and when I try to build a new action over here, and I go and select a flow action, and I say it's newsletter flow. I'm going to just add 1 to it just because I might already have a flow. So if you see here, the instruction which you're going to give is quite important, as we spoke in the previous slides. And when you give okay, right. Picked the wrong flow, sorry. So yeah, so this, if you see this flow, the instruction is quite important, where it will go to the LLM as we discussed. So give a clear, concise instruction, and also do give an instruction clear, concise for the inputs as well, though, so that an Agentforce knows they need to pick the instructions from the output which they're going to get from the prompt builder, though. So over here, I'm going to say it's going to be a required input. Over here also, I'm going to say it's a required input, because without an account ID and a newsletter content, I don't want to be creating an activity. So if you say it's required, it's going to get required. And if you don't say it's collect from the user, Agentforce knows that it has to collect from its previous actions. If it doesn't have, it will clearly say, I don't have this content to be building across these details, though. And over here, if you want this to be shown in the conversation, add whatever the output of this action, if it needs to be shown in the conversation, tell that it should be shown in the conversation, though. So it's exactly the same way you're going to be building the prompt-based action as well. So last few slides, if I go back over here. Right, I did add some slides in case if the org doesn't work though, so I will speak about it. Okay, best practices. So it's where it's getting interesting, right? So start with simple use cases. So as I mentioned earlier, do ensure like you start with few topics and ensure that these topics doesn't contain tons and tons of actions. So that's going to help reasoning and the output which comes from the Agentforce going to be more clear and more suitable for what you've asked as a prompt, though, basically. So the next thing is, wherever it's possible, keep human in loop. So this use case could be used across in a healthcare perspective, yeah? So I didn't want to show that because of, like, I thought, okay, I'll make it slightly bit more fun by using a football club instance, though. But if you use in a healthcare instance, where a GP or a doctor needs to, the letter going out to a patient, it's a quite common scenario. So in this sort of instance, you don't want Agentforce building the whole debrief and mailing it across to your patients, basically. So in this case, ensure that, say for example, like we're storing in an activity, store it in an activity where a human element is there, where a human is going and looking and doing a proof check to ensure that the content is shareable before it goes to a patient, though. So wherever it's possible in these use cases, based upon which sort of industry you're working into or which sort of customers you're going to deal with, try and inject a human element to it, just so that it's safe and secure before it goes to a customer in play. So again, we saw using prompt and a flow. So try and use as much as Salesforce data or data from databases. Again, here it's deterministic and generative actions there per se. So actions, when you try and write instructions, use clear verbs. So get this record, account record, and try and get this child record for the parent account and so on. So ensure that you give a clear action or a verb for the action instructions, so that as it's natural language, you could actually interpret that sentence into any way. So don't make it too complicated. Try and ensure that it's a clear sort of instruction which you give, and try and ensure that if there is a possibility to use a verb as well. So then quality of the data, again, obviously, so more the data, your prompt responses will be better, your outcome from the Agentforce is going to be better. So if there is a possibility, you can connect your data cloud, flow, prompt builder. Even in some instances, if you want to access external data via a connector or via an Apex, do use those data to ground into your prompt or into your Agentforce actions before giving those outcomes. Again, I keep saying this is really important, clear instructions. Just a recap of what we spoke about. Yeah, so we talked about how do you go about creating a prompt template, and then how do you go about creating the actions for the prompt template, and then how you use a flow inside a prompt template as well. Then we spoke about a very simple flow and how do you create actions for that flow. And we also spoke about there are a lot of standard actions which is in play, so make use of them though. So at the end, the part which we didn't speak about, there are a lot of other talks over this as well. So do try and use as much as data possible to ground before feeding it back to the Agentforce to get a quality output. I've also added a couple of QR codes where I thought the 2 pages from the developer site in Salesforce, which gives really clear information, which also has an article about how do you use bulk data from flow into the Agentforce. So when you create a flow action, here I showed a very simple update record action, right? So you can query a list of data, and you can use, say, an account list or a collection of data or bulk data to be fed back to the agent as well via an agent action. So that's a really good sort of a use case. Since it's a session for an introduction to the action, I didn't go into a complicated use case. But I think if you go into these sort of links, you can start exploring more difficult use cases and see how do you start making use of them. At last, I think you would have seen this in quite a few sessions today. Obviously, do try and give feedback. It's really useful, and please do give a feedback to the session as well on how you felt it was, and if there is any sort of room for improvement, of you if you liked it, or if you want to see this session in the Dreamforce in the future as well. So yeah, so do try and give the feedback, please. Yeah. Right. Thanks everybody.